must keep our brothers and sisters, everybody, human beings across the country, across the world, but specifically here in America, we have to keep them in prayer because if you're losing your job and you you don't know where your income is going to come from, that can be stressful. So let me read this article. I'll get back to that. Southwest Airlines just made a bold move that's very different from what its competitors are doing. Is it risky or smart? All right. It is also okay. Hold on. I'm sorry. This is a story about a tough decision at Southwest Airlines and how it differs from the path American Airlines and United Airlines followed. It's also about what your business can learn from the whole thing. Both United Airlines and American Airlines warned over the summer that they would start furloughing thousands of workers on October 1st if that date passed without an extension of the federal aid to the airlines that government approved in April. The October 1st deadline passed, the stimulus didn't. The question of whether there will be more federal airline aid is very much up in the air. Now, you might support the idea of another airline aid package, and you might not. But at Southwest, which lost $17 million each day during the third quarter, which has seen revenue drop 70%, CEO Gary Kelly did something a bit different. This week, Kelly recorded a video for employees in which he said Southwest will keep its streak of not having had layoffs or furloughs for its entire corporate history going at least until the end of the year. After that, however, while Kelly would, of course, welcome federal aid, he said he's no longer counting on the government. Instead, he wants Southwest to cut its own corners. I like that. He's starting with himself. Kelly said he'll go without a salary until the end of 2021. That's beautiful. And that other senior executives will take a 20% pay cut during that time. Other non-union employees will see a pay cut of 10% starting on January 1st. As a result, Kelly promised there would be no layoffs through the end of 2021 for any union employees, and their salaries will snap back, meaning regain the 10% pay cut after 1 year. Now comes the sticky point. Kelly said he'll also be asking unions to match the pay cuts. My goal has been, and it remains, no furloughs, Kelly said in the video. If we fail to reach agreement on reasonable concessions quickly, that will have to be the last resort. Making this announcement and basically putting the ball in the union's court is an interesting move. Both of the unions representing Southwest Airlines flight attendants and pilots poured cold water on the idea of voluntary cuts. See, okay, let me keep going. The flight attendants union sent me a statement saying that it had made it clear to the company in previous conversations that our members are not interested in making concessions to contract that took decades to obtain. Now, okay, let me stop there. This is why unions can be a problem. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing. Here, it's a bad thing. It doesn't matter how long it took for them to come to the agreement of the contract that they have, but this is a disaster that we're in right now. So if the company is trying to sustain itself without having to wait on whether or not the government is going to bail them out, you can't work with the company? That's unfair. That's why companies don't like unions. All right. And the union representing pilots told the Wall Street Journal it had agreed to hold discussions with the company, but also told members in a letter agreeing to discussions is very different than agreeing to concessions. So, what happens next? I guess it's likely one of three things. First, if the unions agree to the cuts, there are no layoffs and Kelly keeps Southwest streak going. Second, if the unions won't agree to the cuts, Kelly moves ahead with furloughs, but he's basically put the onus on the unions for the losses. Finally, if somehow Washington does come to the rescue with a stimulus package, after all, regardless of what the unions do, then Kelly is off the hook again, as the whole issue becomes moot, at least for now. Okay, I'll stop. That's all I read. But I have to applaud him because he's trying to work it out, figure it out without the help of the government. Now, they've lost $17 million a day since October the 1st. This is October the 8th, I'm sorry. Do the math. Do the math on that. $17 million a day is what they've lost. He said he's willing to give up his salary for until 2021. Now, that ain't that much longer because 2021 is coming soon. But still, that's probably a few $1,000,000. He's proposed that some of the salary workers take I think it said a 20% cut in their salaries. But the problem is he can't touch the union workers because the union negotiated their contract. But here's the thing. If your company cannot pay you, and the reason they cannot pay you is because they are not doing the business that they were doing, how can you fight the company on trying to keep your job? That's what amendments are for. There can be an amendment or an addendum to the contract that says for the time being, until we bounce back from what it is we've seen with COVID-19, or until the government does, if they do give a stimulus package to the airlines, then we can pick back up where we left off. But union, come on now. If your employee is either going to have a job or not have a job, and if your employee's employer is trying to figure out a way to keep them employed, and they're not even doing the business that they were doing, and you still want to hold them to the contract, that's crazy. And I guess there was a time where I studied a little bit about Henry Ford, and it's no secret that he hated unions. And for a long time, even though I read it and I understood where he was coming from, I still didn't. I understood it on the surface, but I still couldn't understand why he would dislike them so much. But in a situation like this, I get it. I see now. You're a CEO of a company. You're trying to stay afloat. You're not getting the business, but the union is still holding you to a contract that you really can't even uphold. You can't keep. So does that mean you still pay the employees and they can't perform their duties? If you run an airline and people are not flying, and that's how you make your money, how are you supposed to pay people? And so that's why I say we got to pray, because people need their jobs. But if the government, if they're still in negotiations on whether or not they're going to do a stimulus, and if Donald Trump is dangling it over people's heads, showing them that he has the control, but meanwhile, if they're losing $17 million a day, and they have been for the last 8 days, what is he supposed to do as a leader of that company? I mean, come on, let's be fair. Just think about it. What is he supposed to do? And so unions, man, I know they can be good, but the bigger picture, in this case, it's not good, man. If they not willing to work, it would be different if the coronavirus was not in conversation. If that wasn't a factor. If for some other reason the company was losing money and this was the conversation, then we could have a problem. Then unions stand up. But right here during this time, it's petty. Very petty. Okay, now this brings me to something that, and I was going to say this for later. I may as well say it now. This brings me to something that in the vice presidential debate that caught my attention. A lot of things did, but this one really stands out. Senator Kamala Harris, what she said was true about, she said almost half of America's renters or people that rent in America will not be able to pay their rent by the end of the month. And it due in big part to them losing their jobs and things of that nature. Now, of course, she didn't have time to really expound on that, but I just want to take that statement and look at all of the possibilities. Well, she said it was because of a failure of leadership of this administration. So almost half of people that pay rent will not be able to make their payments because of the failure of leadership in this administration. That's a loaded statement. Now, a general rule of money management, and we hear this all the time, whether we have employed it or not. This is what all of the financial experts, most of them will tell you. You must have 6 months of savings. All right. Now, let's say you did have 6 months of savings. If the coronavirus has been around or been plaguing us since March, let's see, April, May, June, July, August, September. September would make 6 months. So the person that would have lost their job in March, if they didn't get any unemployment, if they didn't get any type of assistance from the government or from anywhere, in this case, I'm going to say the government, then September, then their savings would have been wiped out in September. But we must also remember that most people did get, if they got laid off their jobs, they did get stimulus. Well, they got a stimulus, which was one check, but then they got the unemployment. So, if they did have to touch their savings for a couple of months, they began to get unemployment. So, which was a bipartisan effort. So I can't say that the administration was responsible for that, but I'll say that that person that did have 6 months of savings, they didn't have to dig all the way into it because they should have gotten some assistance. On the other hand, if you were a person, like probably most people, that does not have 6 months of savings, let's look at it for a moment. It's not your fault probably that you don't have 6 months of savings. I mean, it could be argued. It could be that you just don't make enough money to be able to set aside enough money to make sure that you have 6 months of, and when I say 6 months of savings, I means that means that you should have 6 months worth of what it costs for you to pay your bills every month. So you may not have that. It may not necessarily be your fault, but we can't say that it's anybody else's fault either. This is a tough conversation to have, but we got to be careful when we throw certain words and things around. Now, who does the responsibility lie on? Does it lie on the administration, or does it lie on each individual? Now, does the government have a responsibility to its people? Yes, it does. Did the government come through as it relates to the responsibility for their people? I'm gonna say yes. It may not be as big or as consistent as other countries, but I do know that people did get stimulus checks. People did get unemployment. People did get extra unemployment. And people also got small business loans. Remember yesterday I told you need to get a business. And so with all of those things, to make the statement that half of the people that pay rent in America won't be able to pay it by the end of the month because of this administration. Again, I am not a Trump supporter, but that again is a misleading statement. And the reason it's misleading is because, as I told you yesterday, don't wait on somebody to do something for you that you can do for yourself. Now, the timing of it all may be jacked up because it's easy to say now, man, I should have been saving up for a time like this. But time has run out because you didn't. And even if you hadn't gotten any assistance, then it would be gone. So it's a double-edged sword. But the point of the matter is, the reason I like what the CEO of Southwest is doing, he's taking control of the situation himself. It's like, okay, we lose $17 million a day. I'm going to cut my salary completely. I'm going to cut some people by 20%. Hey, union, I need y'all help because I can't pay everybody at the same rate. He's trying to take care of what he has to take care of without having to wait on the government to bail him out. If the government bail him out, great. But if they don't, they don't run his company. That's his company to run. That's his responsibility to run the company. So while it's catastrophic that a lot of people won't be able to pay their rent, but instead of making a statement like that, how about saying, hey, everybody that's an owner or everybody that have tenants, and then she didn't even say about the people that have mortgages. She just said she just targeted the rent. And that's why you got to watch the language. Watch the language. These are the people, the people that they're needing to vote for them are the people that pay rent. Catch what I'm saying. So how about let's see if we can get them again to hold off, or let's see if we can put something in place as opposed to giving more money. Let's see if we can put something in place that'll say, hey, you cannot, or you won't be able to put a person out because they haven't paid their rent because we're in a state of emergency as a country. How about that? That's a little bit more. That's a little bit better than money right now. If I'm able to have a roof over my head without having to figure out where the money is going to come from right now, that's better than money. So maybe we can do that. Maybe just like it was a bipartisan effort to send out more money, let's make it a bipartisan effort to not let people get kicked out of their homes. And I do find it interesting that she said half of the people that pay rent, you gotta pay your mortgage too. But I suppose you get more time. I suppose it's a process that you have to go through as it relates to foreclosure. It's tough. It's a tough conversation. So what do I always say? We gotta pray. Nothing beats prayer in these circumstances. That's what it's gonna take. Period. Point blank. Gotta pray. All right, I got more show coming. Of course, I got more great music. The next hour, we're going to talk about specifically and exclusively the vice presidential debate. And we might even talk about the fly a little bit, although the fly has gotten too much play today. But we're going to talk about the fly a little bit. How did the fly stay on that man's head? I don't know, but we'll talk about it. It's the Mike Brown Morning Show. I'll be back. Don't go anywhere. As a matter of fact, go grab somebody and tell them, hey, are you listening to the show this morning? All right, if you're not, I need you to listen to the show. All right, I'll be back.
Wake up. Right here.
The Mike Brown Morning Show.
Wake up, baby, when you wake up, hit it in the morning.
Heard weekdays 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on the Urban Uplift.
Wake up. Right here.
The Mike Brown Morning Show.
Wake up, baby, when you wake up, hit it in the morning.
Heard weekdays 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on the Urban Uplift.
Welcome back. If you're joining us this morning, I want to say thank you. We don't take it lightly that you decided to rock with us here on the Mike Brown Morning Show. I hope you've been enjoying the show so far. So I asked you all, I said, why do the vice presidential candidates sit down during the debates, but the presidential candidates stand up? So a couple of people chimed in. One person said, maybe it's because they don't want them to feel superior in stature as it relates to the office of president versus vice president. So, I mean, that makes sense. That does make sense. Somebody else said you worrying about the wrong thing, my brother. Okay. I told you all that we're going to, we got our unofficial pundit that's been talking politics here on the Mike Brown Morning Show. So I want everybody to welcome back to the show. We got to come up with an official name for him. But right now, we're just going to go by his government. Romero Lancaster, welcome back to the Mike Brown Morning Show, sir.
That's funny, Mike. Hey, what's up, man?
Not much, man. Hey, you got to run for office so we can call you something like councilman or alderman.
Man, listen, I don't know if I'm ready to live that transparent, bro. That's nuts.
Yeah. Well, run for the school board.
Right. Something nobody pays attention to, and I can influence like 10 of my friends to vote me in.
Right. And nobody goes to the meetings or nothing.
Right. I can be super low key.
Yep. You might get a gas card. You might have not to pay for gas. Who knows what they get?
Right. Just give me a gift card every now and then. I'll be good.
Yeah. So, the debate. What's your overall thoughts on the debate?
First, I want to give a shout out to Black women. Oh man, last night was amazing. Like for Kamala, in my opinion. In my opinion, if it was a boxing match, she would have won by points. It wasn't a KO for sure, but she definitely won by points. She got a lot of good jabs in. What was your overall take?
Okay, I would have to agree with you on that one, and I would say she won. But at the same time, I would say that I think that Pence did a good job as it relates to being respectful. I don't want to say because she's a woman, because depending on what circle you say that in, and that could be offensive or chauvinist. But
I got to kind of push back on you on the respectful part.
Okay.
I think his compliments of congratulations, you're the first Black woman in this role, and all that was strategic. Congratulations. That was not genuine. And furthermore, how many times did she have to say, "Mike, I'm talking. Mike, I'm talking"? How many times did she have to say that? And not only her, but the moderator. How many times did she have to say, "Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you, Mr. Vice President"? In other words, he was reflective of the current administration.
Mm.
He acted just like his leader.
Well,
do you still think that he was championing? He was a champion of respect last night.
Well, just overall, like every time it was time for him to speak, he said, "Thank you, Miss whatever moderator. Thank you, moderator." And he said what he had to say. He never really raised his voice. He never got irate or anything like that. She didn't either. But I'm just saying. So overall,
yeah, I think in contrast to Trump, most people will come across respectful. I mean, I'm not saying he was the worst, but he definitely could have been better. Like, to me, and you still felt the attack.
Yeah.
Even though Trump wasn't there, the spirit of Trump was still in the room.
Mm. But she handled it. I mean, she handled it well. She handled it well. She was not. We got to be careful when we talk about. We got to be careful when we talk about women, because it could be taken the wrong way. We got a little pushback the other day when we said no. Hold on. You got pushback because I just laughed. You got pushback. But how do you remember what the statement was? How can you go exactly back without me even saying what I said?
Okay. I'll let you go ahead.
No, but you're right. You're absolutely right. But she handled it well. She was not stereotypical in any way, I should say. Now, some of her facial expressions were, but there's nothing you could do about that. And that's not even in a negative way. It's just, I mean, they've already made the memes of her and Claire Huxtable. So, I mean, what are you going to do with that?
I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see those. But it's unfair. The line she had to walk, and she did a masterful job at it. But it's unfair the line she had to walk because of stereotypes, right? Yeah. For one, being a woman, and then avoiding the angry Black woman thing, right? So she has to be aggressive, but not too aggressive, to at least maintain the base, So it's unfair, and then it's unfair a lot of times in our society how if men speak passionately, okay, he's just passionate. But if you get a woman who speaks passionately, it's automatic. Oh, she's angry, So that dynamic is already unfair. But hopefully, those things start to change with a leader like Kamala Harris.
I feel you. Now, before I have a specific question that's a little bit weighted that I want to ask. But before I do,
Okay.
is there anything else you want to point out about the debate?
Oh man, it's so much that I want to talk about as far as the debate, as far as Pence. Well, as far as Pence, there were two times where he walked into traps that he set for himself. Did you hear when he started to talk? He asked Kamala if Democrats were going to pack the court if they won the election.
Say that one more time.
Did you hear Pence ask Kamala if her and Biden would pack the court if they won the election?
I did, and he didn't answer at all. I mean,
she
didn't answer at all.
Well, that was the question he asked her. Would she pack the court? And so she finally unleashed on him right there, which has been a big thrust for me in this whole election. She responded and said, "Do you want to talk about packing courts, really? When Mitch McConnell and Donald J. Trump have done nothing but pack the federal district courts since they've been in office, which is the whole end game. That is the whole agenda. Because if you control the courts, they can even lose elections after this one. If they have all those court appointments, they still the Republican voice will still govern the country."
True.
And so, literally, that's where she gave him a haymaker, and she pointed out how many judges they literally have appointed, and 0 of them are black. And to be specific, 198 federal district appointments by this administration, 198, and 0 black, and they are between the ages of 35 and 40, and these are lifetime appointments.
That's crazy.
And why does that matter? Because when you have a state like Texas, where the governor at the 11th hour decides that most of the counties should have one polling location because Republicans win when less people vote, then who puts him in check? It's supposed to be the court. You file a suit. Well, guess what? If it's a Republican sitting in that seat, then the foolishness continues for people like the governor of Texas and for people like the governor of Ohio. Same deal. There are videos right now showing people in lines, ridiculously long lines, just trying to cast a vote. And they do that intentionally to suppress the vote. And things like this is what matters. This is how you set up an apartheid-style government, is you control the court. Mike, this election is not about the next 4 years. It's about the next 50 years.
I agree with that. But why are they so? Because Trump asked the same question to Biden, or the question was asked to Biden, and Trump kept chiming in. Why is it so important for them to know whether or not that's what they want to do, but that's what they've been doing?
Yeah. That's the trait of a narcissist. With somebody who's as self-absorbed with a big ego like Trump, that is their trait. Is I accuse you of the very thing that I'm trying to do.
That's good. Very good, man. That's some
It's
good
a-
insight
it's a-
right there.
I'm sorry.
That's some good insight right there.
Oh, absolutely, man. That's. But if you follow Trump's record, everything he's accusing somebody else of doing is absolutely what he's trying to do. And then all the other, the one, one of his comments, one of Pence's comments last night that made me so angry is when he brought up H1N1, the swine flu, and tried to compare that to COVID-19.
Yeah.
And he's saying, "Oh, it was poorly handled, and if this situation, then millions of people would have died." But it's like, sir, why are we talking about what did not happen? You actually have a body count on this administration at 200,000 that did die. So why are you making an emphasis on an if? And then that was another one where she blew them up, where she said, when she talked about how Trump, in his effort to disband everything that Obama had put together, eliminated the team that was put in place specifically to combat pandemic and disease. The team was specifically set up for that. And he gets in office and gets rid of him immediately.
Yeah, that's crazy. And that's something that you would need when you run a country. But maybe he thought that's what the purpose of the CDC is, to help kind of navigate through those types of things.
But this is what I would say to that is this is what you get when you have a person who is in office who is simply not qualified, who does not know what he's doing. Listen, Donald Trump was a businessman and entertainer. Having your foot in the business world does not equip you to run a country. These people who have stepped into the presidential office, a lot of them are lifetime legislators, or they have some political pedigree. This guy has just been a clown his whole life. And this is what happens when you have unqualified people making decisions. And that's why I could not vote for him, and that's why I will not vote for him in this election.
I feel you. It's tough. It's tough to say that you will vote for Trump. I don't know how a person can say that. Now, I do know, I can see how people are undecided, but I understand. You all say, notice how I say you all. You all say no. No vote is a vote for Trump. So ideally, I understand what you mean, but I just haven't fully subscribed to that yet. But there's no way I could vote for Donald Trump. No way.
But see, so why haven't you subscribed to no vote is a vote for Trump? Why haven't you subscribed to that?
Because I feel like if my vote has power, let it be on my terms. If it's one vote, if it was one person, one vote, let my vote be my vote or not my vote. And it doesn't have to be tied to an agenda or to a group. It's my vote. And if I did my due diligence and I voted, then that one box on that ballot, that's my business, because I do have a moral compass. And I do understand, like the last time you were on, you said that you vote for what's best for the country. I totally agree with that. But now, in my defense, None of it is best for the country. So I don't have a candidate. That's just how I feel. And there's probably only a few, the people in my category, it's a small percent of us maybe that's out there that feel that way. But that's why I say I can't subscribe to that, because if I go and vote, I think I've done my part.
So here's where I would push back on you for the saying that you can't subscribe to the notion that no vote is a vote for Trump. When I talked about Texas limiting counties to one polling location, Ohio limiting counties to one polling location, these are Republican governors doing this. Why would they limit the vote? Why would they do that? Because when less people vote, Republicans win. This is specifically why Donald Trump thanked black people for not voting when he won in 2016.
What did he say? What did he say?
And to our black Americans, thank you for not voting. He literally, for all of those black Trump supporters who might be listening, somebody who literally thanked your whole demographic for not voting.
It's ridiculous.
I'm sorry?
That's ridiculous.
Yes. And then you turn around and vote for it. And then you turn around and say, find reasons to try to support him, get it out of here. Oh, he did this for he passed his bill to get HBCUs money. Well, did he tell you about the black woman out of North Carolina who actually wrote the bill? When does he ever talk about her? No, she's black and she's a woman. Why would he? He'll get the credit for that. But this is who you want to vote for. Oh, in his platinum bill to the black people, vote for me and I'll make Juneteenth a national holiday. Well, why did that Rand Paul block it this year? But this is the guy you want to. This is the guy you want to vote for. Mike, I can go on and on.
I feel you and I hear you, and I think, yesterday, this is a good time for me to do a plug for our YouTube channel. We got a YouTube channel now. It's simply the Mike Brown Morning Show, and
okay.
As I've been explaining, it's very new. So we're not high up on the algorithm. So you're going to have to scroll down a little bit to get to it once you type it in. But so what we've been doing is we put our shows on YouTube. So the show that we're recording the show that it's live right now, but it's being recorded as well. And it's going to be placed on YouTube so people can go back and listen. So I'm saying that to say, if you go back and listen to the show yesterday, I actually talked about Donald Trump in depth, and I didn't just talk about the so-called politician. I talked about the person and how he's never changed. I think that people just expected him to change because he was now the president. But because he's so polarizing, a lot of the fundamental truths that put him where he is or allowed him to grow into the person that he's become as it relates to a certain success, it's not all bad. It's just that when you are a narcissist and a liar, then that completely changes everything. His whole thing is about winning. Like, that's his whole mantra. He's a winner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's how he was able to bamboozle people. And that's how he became president. Not based off of any experience, not based off of anything other than that winning attitude. And that's what people wanted. People were tired of the traditional politician talk and whatnot. And it was fresh. It was new. It was different. And I think the major mistake that Donald Trump made, first of all, he needs to be off Twitter. Period. Secondly, the major mistake he made is that he talks to, like, stop talking. Get experts to talk for you. I think the trajectory of his presidency could have been a whole lot different if he would have kept the winning attitude and let other people do the job and he just be the face of it. I think it could have been. It could have worked.
It could have been. I don't want to say it could have worked because I don't see a great plan in place. I think he could have continued his reign of terror. is how I would say it. But I do agree that he could have put a different face on it, like, and let somebody else do more speaking for him. But that is the part that scares me about Mike Pence. Mike Pence is actually very scary because he normalizes the insanity.
Yeah, that's good. That's say that one more time.
Mike Pence is scary because he normalizes the insanity. He puts a polish on boo-boo. You know what I'm saying? It's at the end of the day, it's still crap, but he just puts a good polish on it. And but that's what makes him dangerous because he makes people feel better about embracing their own demise.
So how much of that do you think is Pence versus the vice president?
How much of what is Pence?
The whole making it palatable. Like, is that Mike Pence or is that Donald Trump's vice president?
I think that's Mike Pence's personality. I mean, because in 2016 when he would do, when he was on the ticket and such, and you would see him do speeches and everything, he had the same demeanor even before 4 years of Trump. Same demeanor. So I think that's him.
Okay.
But he just has an easier way of saying there's no systemic racism in America. It doesn't exist. And he says it's so soft. And he doesn't argue about it. He just gently sits it there on the table.
Yeah.
And he'll lull you to sleep like, what are you worried about in this America? George Floyd didn't even really happen. It'll just be ridiculous. But yeah, he just has a way of normalizing what's actually absolutely ridiculous. So actually, that's why I'm glad Trump was the clown out in front and as obvious. Because if it had been Pence leading, it would probably be 4 more years of a disaster.
Okay. I hear what you're saying on that. And this is what I kind of been saying. You got to go back and listen to yesterday's show. But this is what I've been saying, and we're probably going to disagree on this one. This is one of the things I almost say on a daily basis now. America, there is not a party problem in America. When I say that, I mean Republican or Democrat. That's not the issue. The issue is a race problem in America.
Absolutely.
As it relates to black and white people, white Democrats don't like black people as much as white Republicans don't. I just think that the Democratic Party has been painted as the party that saves or saved black people or on the side of black people. And so black people are used as pawns to fight against the Republicans for the power. It's about power. And we're just a pawn. They don't care about us for real. It's just to get an agenda across. Just like slavery wasn't about, the Civil War wasn't about slavery. Slavery was just a factor in it. So I'll free the slaves to get what I want out of what I'm trying to get. It couldn't have been that I cared about slaves that much because I got slaves myself. So it's not a matter of them being free. It's a matter of I just got to give this up to gain the power that I need. And so that's how I feel.
Go ahead. So when you talk about black people voting Democrat, I'll say this: at a minimum, if you are black, it is the best party you have. Easy place to start is when you have a vice president who is echoing the words of his president when he says systemic racism does not exist in this country. What policy do you think they're going to launch in your behalf if they don't think systemic racism exists?
But do you think they speak for all Republicans when they say that?
They speak as the people that have the pen to sign things into law. That's who they speak as. So maybe they don't reflect the view of every single Republican, but they reflect the view of the ones with the pen. And that's what matters. And you have these people saying systemic racism in America does not exist. While one of the senators or House of Representatives, the Native American woman who got up on, during their whole campaign and said, "Oh, systemic racism doesn't exist," and come to find out, she changed her name, her Native American name, so it sounds more American. So people will vote for her. And you're standing up here saying systemic racism doesn't exist, So that's what I'm saying. When you're running into this ridiculousness, how do you even start to crop an argument that as a black person I should vote Republican? How do you even start to crop the argument?
Well, and this is why I said I knew we're gonna disagree on this one, because that's one aspect. But there are many different things, many different arguments that we could have on this subject. So that's why you got to come back.
Here's what I will say to that. Here's what I will say to that. I think, and you were alluding to this a little bit earlier, but this is where I fall. There is no party that speaks to the intersectionality that is me. What do I mean by intersectionality? I am black. I am a male. I am Christian. So issues of social justice matter to me, but then issues of morality matter to me too. So I have to vacillate between both parties depending on where we are and what's on the ballot and what's crucial at the moment, so that I can somehow manage to get the best of both worlds, because there is no, so while now I'm voting, voting for people who happen to be Democrats, I'm not a Democrat.
Got you. Okay.
I am just,
I'll take
I am just adamant that our country, I really don't think our country would survive another 4 years of Trump without some kind of massive mayhem. I really don't.
I think, and I hear you, I think it doesn't matter who's in that seat. Whatever is going to happen is going to happen. There's some rough days ahead
I
for
think I
sure.
disagree with that. I think I disagree with that.
But there,
Because you can have. Go ahead.
well, there are definitely some rough days ahead. It's inevitable, and the next 2 years is going to be rough, no matter who's sitting in the seat.
Yes, for sure. And that's why we need to have the right person in that seat, especially to get us through this pandemic. We are not out of this pandemic. I just read an article this morning, and it talks about, how the stimulus relief bill didn't get passed. And, Trump told them, the blame all could have been left between the arguing Democrats and the arguing Republicans. The blame could have been left there, but Trump gets involved and he advises them to stop the discussions and the negotiations about it until after he is elected president.
Another ploy. That's another ploy.
Yes. In the meantime, you have eviction bans that are going to run out. You have the extra $600 that people were getting on top of their unemployment benefits that has run out. Now, why is that important? Well, the extra $600, the economists say, while the extra $600 was at play, the economy stayed at pre-COVID spending levels.
For sure. That's what they pinned on that.
Which was the purpose of the stimulus. Because you want to keep people going to the restaurants, spending money as much as possible, because that's what makes the economy go around. Now, he's out here propagating a V-shaped recovery in the economy. And these people, the economy was propped up on that stimulus. And now you're not going to get any more stimulus until you get elected.
Yeah. Now, I hate to cut you off right there. I hate to cut you off, but we running out of time. But
okay,
you got to go back and listen to this show today too, because we talked about that as well, and why he's doing that is for power, so that he'll be reelected, so that then he can address it. It's just another pawn, another ploy. But this is what I wanted to say to you before we go. This is something that I didn't like from Kamala yesterday. Now,
I'm sorry. Can you start again? I had a little interference.
This is something that I didn't like that Senator Harris said last night. She said that almost half of renters in America will not be able to pay rent by the end of the month because of the failure of the leadership of this administration. Now, what's your thoughts on that statement?
I think it's accurate. When you have 30 million people file for unemployment because you disbanded a team that would have kept the pandemic out of this country. You knew about how deadly it was in February, and it is recorded, and you downplayed it and said it was a hoax. So you disbanded the team, you lied about it, completely mismanaged it. End result, 30 million people filed for unemployment. Now the extra stimulus money is running. It has run out. The eviction moratoriums are running out. So absolutely, looking at the big picture, absolutely, he is responsible for these people who are not going to be able to pay their rent because you let the economy fail. That's on your watch.
So when she said half of the renters, do you think she was talking about people that hold mortgages as well, or was she specifically talking about people that pay rent?
I think she was talking about people who pay rent. Because in the CARES Act, there is, if you have a mortgage, there is a mortgage forbearance that a lot of banks are extending. So I really do think it was targeted to renters, and also, I think it was targeted directly to renters.
See, and that's okay. It's so much more that I can talk about, but we don't have time. We got to come back and finish this.
Okay.
But I guess this would be my final statement. I didn't like that statement because it felt like we are in a position where we look for the government to bail us out of some stuff that we can kind of try to take control of ourselves. It would be great if they did. And if you don't go back and listen to the show, I want you to read an article about Southwest Airlines. What their CEO is trying to do in lieu of government bailout, or if bailout doesn't happen, he's trying to take control of the situation. I want you to read that and then think about that statement that she made and see if you can find a correlation there. Go ahead.
I will check it out, but I will, my final pushback on, because I know what that argument is, it's the personal responsibility, but I'll give you this. If a person even follows the stereotypical framework of being quote unquote responsible, and you put away 6 months of your rent and you had it as an emergency stash. Well, this pandemic, we're into this, from March of last year to it could easily be a 2-year thing. So even if you were responsible and put away 6 months, what are you going to do for a year and a half?
Exactly. Precisely. But the conversation on that begins now, if that's the case.
Right. I agree, but that's why I disagree with people should have been personally responsible and saved 2 years of bills, saved up enough money to pay 2 years worth of bills. Like, I just can't. I don't think that's fair. And I do think the American government is responsible when 30 million people lose jobs.
I understand that, but there is some responsibility that we have to, even if we haven't done that, there's still some responsibility that everybody has to accept in it, even if it's not in our favor. But it had been in our favor. No, well, but that's what I'm saying. The 2-year argument that needs to start happening now. But it had been addressed when the first wave of stimulus package came across. People were able to get an extra $600. People did get stimulus checks. There were SBA loans given, and so the government, in a bipartisan way, did come through. Now, the discussion needs to be revisited, but it does not mean that everybody does not have somewhat of a responsibility to pay, because that's what makes government so big that it gets out of control.
No, but then you compare to other countries that are giving the citizens $2,000 a month, period, because we're in a pandemic, and until we get out of this, each citizen, you're going to, over a certain age, you're going to get $2,000 a month. It could have absolutely, understand, Mike, this is the cash richest country the world has ever seen at any time in human history. The richest. And you had the head of Federal Reserve say, listen, he signaled so many times in so many ways to say, we will support this, the American economy no matter what. We will basically, in essence, print the money. We will write the check. We will hold them up till we get through this. And you have the Republican Party who just says, no, we will stand in the way. That's what you're dealing with. So when you talk about government stepping in, this is what government is here for.
But we can't negate the fact that they have stepped in, and they may step in again. But on a cultural level, and here's another problem: we don't have culture in America as Black people because they stole it from us. But and on a cultural level, there are just fundamental truths that we can put in place that when things like this occur, it doesn't hit us so hard. For example, if you did have the 6 months or whatever, or more saved up or whatever, by the time the stimulus did come, now you can hold off on you still should at least have 4 months because you were getting the extra unemployment, or you were getting, but our mentality is, well, instead of, this is a blanket statement, so don't take it personally, anybody. But instead of me doing my part and my due diligence, I'll just wait on the government to come through. But we get mad at big companies when they do it, but on a personal level, it's okay. That's my only point there.
Okay, so here's my rebuttal, Mike. I have a problem with a government who will take the people's tax dollars and bail out banks in 2008 for a recession that they caused because of their fraud. You take the people's money and bail the banks out, but now the people the people that you got the money from need you to bail them out. Mm-hmm. And it's all the hemming and hawing. And it's all the, this stipulation and that stipulation and this. It's so many problems. But if it's the bank, write the check. Write the check.
And look, I hear you, and we gotta go for real. But the bank in turn, on some level, they're gonna loan somebody some money, or they got employees that they gotta pay, or.
But Mike, the bank wouldn't be here if the government didn't take the people's money. The money that the government used to bail them out was from people. And they took from the people to bail out private industry.
Yeah.
Not public, private industry. And now the same people who you took that money from need you to bail them out by the millions.
Right. And so
here's the problem. Here's the problem, Mike. Here's the problem. Mike, here's the problem. If the government does not come to the aid of the people, it'll be us who feel the effect, because if these people are not getting that extra money, if they are not able to live comfortably and have some sense of normalcy during this pandemic, this is where you could start to see people crime increase, because now, out of fear of not having enough, now I'm breaking in houses. Now I'm sticking people. I'm sticking people up.
We got to.
This is how
we got to pick this up next week, man. We can't finish it today. We got to pick this back up. But thanks for coming on, man. And we're gonna start right where we left off next time.
All right, man.
Thanks for being here.
Yep.
All right, folks, it's the Mike Brown Morning Show. I want you to have a prosperous rest of your day. I want you to claim your day. I want you to tell your day what it's going to be. It's going to be great, victorious, prosperous. You shall have what you say. All right? I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Get up, look up, stay up. It's the Wake up.
Right here.
The Mike Brown Morning Show.
Wake up, baby, when you wake up, hit it in the morning.
Heard weekdays 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on the Urban Uplift.